Do you celebrate Thanksgiving? And if so, do you know what the origins of Thanksgiving is? If not, let me tell you. When the English began to arrive to what today is known as the United States, and I said the English, not Columbus, because Columbus never arrived to North America. Columbus only set foot in what today is known as Cuba and Dominican Republic and Haiti. Only. Columbus never came to North America. So when the English began to arrive to what today is known as North America, they came very unprepared. And they were struggling with agriculture, with food, etc. And the local Native American people, known as the Wampanoag, they noticed how the English were struggling and a lot of times dying due to how much they struggled surviving in a new land that they were unfamiliar with. So the Native American people went over there and taught them how to survive, helped them with food, helped them with shelter, etc. But little did these Native American people know that these Europeans never arrived here to make friends. They arrived here to steal land, to steal resources, and to create their own colony by any means necessary. So once these English immigrants established themselves with the help of Native Americans, they decided to invite those Native American people to a feast to celebrate a new friendship. When the Native American people arrived and gathered around to have this feast, the white immigrants gave the Native American people something that they never had before, which was alcohol. So once these natives were sedated, these white folks began to slaughter all of them. And this is the way that the white man repaid the Native Americans for helping them survive. This particular event happened in the year 1621 or so. In the 1800s, Abraham Lincoln declared this a national holiday, Thanksgiving, the celebration of the white man slaughtering the Native American as a way to repay the Native American people for helping the new arriving white man. And today, a lot of you celebrate this holiday. Some of you already knew that this is what was being celebrated. And then some of you didn't know this and are wondering, wow, why would they celebrate such a thing? Well, for the same reason why in America, they have statues of Christopher Columbus. They celebrate white slave owners, white colonizers, grapists. Their statues, schools, universities, streets named after white slave owners, grapists, colonizers. And it is completely okay. Now let me ask you something. Why don't they have a statue of Adolf Hitler? Why do we have a statue of Columbus? Schools, streets named after him? Why do we have a Columbus Day, but we don't have a Hitler Day? Let me tell you why we don't have a Hitler Day. Because that man committed horrible crimes. But here's the kicker though. Against white people. The name Hitler is so prohibited that you can't even say it on social media. You can't type it in the comments. If you make a video, you may have to bleep the name. Otherwise, you're risking for your video to get taken down. But you could create a video. You could write a blog praising Columbus. How would you feel if we had a statue named after Hitler? A university named after Hitler? A street named after Hitler? How would you personally feel if we had a holiday to celebrate Hitler Day? Would you celebrate it? Oh, no, of course not. That's horrible. But you celebrate the massacre of Native Americans. You celebrate white figures that committed genocide against Native Americans. Do you want to know why? Because Native Americans in our own land, we are completely irrelevant. Other people of other lands, of other continents, their struggle is respected more in this land than the Native American struggles in our own land. Imagine celebrating white men that massacred Native Americans in America, celebrating these people and these days, these holidays based on these people in America, in the faces of Native Americans. But you wouldn't dare to celebrate Hitler, put up a statue of Hitler in the faces of Jews. And all that stuff didn't even happen in America. It happened in Germany. And yet, you better not disrespect the Jews and their struggle of people in a struggle that happened in Germany. Nothing to do with us here. But we better respect them here. But the people original, indigenous to here, you could disrespect them all you want. In fact, we'll help you disrespect them. We'll create holidays that represent days that we massacred them. We create statues that represent white figures that massacred them. We'll help you celebrate disrespecting Native Americans in their own homeland, in their faces. When I was in my second semester of college, on my first day in campus, at the college library, which was a very, very big library, by the way, they had a huge banner that stretched from one side of the library to the other side of it. Huge banner of Anne Frank. And it was to remember Anne Frank and the Jewish Holocaust. Of course, I didn't have no problem with that. Why would I? And the first thing I thought when I saw it, I was like, oh, I didn't know that we could put our people's struggle in display to teach people, to bring awareness. So immediately, of course, being the person that I am, I went out of my way to find out how I can go about displaying the Native American Holocaust from one side of the library to the other one, to bring awareness, of course. And long story short, when I finally got to the person that I had to talk to grant me access and or permission to do such a thing, this white woman told me, oh no, we can't do that. And I said, wait a minute, why not? You're bringing awareness to the Jewish Holocaust, so why can't we bring awareness to the Native American Holocaust? And she said these words, do you understand that this is only going to bring hatred towards and against white people? And that's when I realized that Native American people in our own land, we are the most irrelevant people. How irrelevant are we? Well, a couple of years back, the petroleum company, Chevron, was dumping toxic waste in Ecuador. And in that particular proximity where they were dumping toxic waste was a village of indigenous people. And throughout the years, due to the dumping of toxic waste, a lot of the local indigenous people were getting ill and passing away. And so the indigenous people began to complain to Chevron. You need to stop dumping toxic waste here. We're getting sick and a lot of us are dying. Well, as you would guess it, Chevron didn't care. They continued doing what they do until eventually the indigenous people took this matter to court. And in court, the judge asked the Chevron representative, did you know that you dumping toxic waste in this region would cause these problems to those people there? And Chevron representative said, yes, we did know. And so the judge asked, so then why are you doing it? And the Chevron representative said, we didn't know that these people were relevant. Indigenous people of the Americas are the most irrelevant people in America. Everybody else's struggle in our own land matters more than our struggle. Every other people that are not indigenous to the Americas, their struggle and their human rights matter more in America than the human rights of Native Americans. Very recently, in Dominican Republic, they removed the statue of Chief Atuay because they said it represents paganism. But they kept the statue of Christopher Columbus. Do you know who Chief Atuay is? Chief Atuay was an Arawak Taino chief in what today is known as Dominican Republic and Haiti. And when Columbus first arrived to that region, it was the Taino people that went to the aid of these Europeans. Because these Europeans were found washed to the shores. After these Europeans got on their feet and began to establish themselves, they sent some Europeans back to Spain and asked for more boats filled with more soldiers to come to wipe these people out in order for them to create a new Spain. They began to enslave the Taino people, force them to dig for gold, punish them if they refused. They forced them to adopt Christianity. And if you rejected Christianity, they crucified you alive and they torched you. In fact, Chief Atuay was one of those people that rejected Christianity, rejected being a slave. And so when he was captured, they tied him to a cross, as well as the other Taino that joined them to reject Christianity. And then they gathered the Taino people that did submit and did adopt Christianity by force and did accept being slaves. They gathered those people around so they could watch as they tied Chief Atuay and the other Tainos that rejected Christianity and refused to be slaves, they tied him up to a cross and they gave him one last opportunity to accept Christ as their Savior. You can no longer save yourself in this world, but before we take your life, you could still accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and you will have a place in heaven after you die, in the afterlife. And Chief Atway asked, so what happens if I don't? And then the white man said, then you will spend eternity burning in hell. And then Chief Atway asked, in this heaven that you speak of, are there also Christians like you up there? Yeah, of course there is. And then Chief Atway, he spat at him. Puh! Then I'd much rather go to hell. And well, they burnt them alive, along with the other Tainos that rejected Christianity and refused to be slaves. So with that said, it was a symbol of a cross that these Christians came with. And it's the symbol that represents the genocide of Native American people. And today, in the Americas, we hold this symbol dear to us. But let me ask you something. Would you hold the symbol of the swastika dear to you, knowing what the symbol represents? Of course not. On the contrary, society will frown upon you. In many cases, you will get in trouble for praising that symbol, because it's the symbol that represents the genocide of the Jewish people, a genocide that happened in Germany. But yet, the symbol that represents the genocide of Native Americans, it is a symbol that is cherished in America, where it was used to commit crimes against the Native Americans. In fact, there was something in America, specifically in Canada and the United States, known as Indian boarding schools. These Indian boarding schools were run by Christian and Catholic organizations. And the objective of these Indian boarding schools was to kidnap Native American children, force them into these Indian boarding schools, prohibit them from speaking their native languages, no longer able to identify with their native identity, and you were forced to become Christians. And the things that these children were put through in these Indian boarding schools, I'm going to allow you to research that, because I cannot describe those things in this video. As much as I would love to, because this video will be taken down like that. But I'm sure you get the idea about what went on in these Indian boarding schools. And I say all that to finally conclude to this. I don't expect any other people to respect indigenous people in America, because we are a people that are completely irrelevant. Our struggle is oftentimes minimized, romanticized, or just completely dismissed. I do not expect other people of other lands that come to America to respect us and our struggle. But if you are Native American, if you are an indigenous person of the Americas, and you celebrate Thanksgiving, shame on you. Because you will never, ever see a Jewish person celebrate anything that represents their genocide, their oppression, etc. Do you want to know why? Because Jewish people, they love themselves. And if any other people disrespect them, they, Jewish people, will make sure that there's repercussions to it. Jewish people in America will make sure you respect their struggle, a struggle that took place in Germany. But you better respect it everywhere that Jewish people go to. Meanwhile, Native Americans, well, everything that has happened and everything that continues to happen regarding disrespecting us and our struggle in our own land, the reason why it's easy to disrespect us is because we don't put our foot down. We are the only people in the world where other people of other lands could come here and completely disrespect us. Not only that, could completely oppress us in our own land. You know, the Jews, they live by a phrase. The phrase is also known as never again. It means that no matter what happens, Jewish people will do anything and everything, no matter what that is, to make sure that what happened to them in Germany, it never happens again. They will make sure that no people anywhere in the world ever put them through that again. Hence, never again. And so, You see Jewish people and how they move. You don't have to like them, but you will respect them. You could even hate them, but you better not say nothing against them. Why? Because they will make sure that there's repercussions. Meanwhile, Native American, indigenous people of the Americas, they put statues here of Christopher Columbus. They named universities after the white men that pillaged, that stole your land. They literally make fun of us in our faces. And so I say to you, if you are Native American and or indigenous to the Americas and you celebrate Thanksgiving, shame on you for celebrating your own massacre, your own oppression. And this is a good example of why we are in the conditions that we are. Because we have never said never again.